Welcome to this popular Beethoven magazine audio discussion. I was just flipping through the latest issue and came across something that really made me stop. They were talking about the cost of new timpani for an orchestra, and it mentioned a set can be comparable to buying a small car.
Hmm.
Seriously,
Yeah.
for what I always sort of thought of as just a glorified drum set, that definitely sparked a question for me.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. And honestly, you're not alone in that initial surprise. A
Yeah.
lot of people think that. There's such a rich and, well, often overlooked story behind these instruments. So, drawing from the insights in popular Beethoven magazine, let's really dig into the world of timpani. We can explore their fascinating historical journey, their absolutely crucial role within the orchestra, the unique ways Beethoven himself used them. And yes, we'll definitely unravel just why they can come with such a, well, surprising price tag.
Okay, I'm in. So ancient origins is where the article starts.
Yeah.
I pictured something, a few centuries old maybe, but it sounds like they go way further back.
That's absolutely right. Popular Beethoven magazine highlights that even as far back as the biblical book of Exodus, there's mention of the tympanum. It was used in religious ceremonies by the Hebrews. So yeah, way back. Now, if we fast forward quite a bit to, say, the 13th century in Europe, we see the arrival of these smaller kettle drums called nakers.
Acres. Never heard of them.
Right. They were only about 8 or 9 inches across, pretty small, used in pairs, usually for military ceremonies. They came back via the Crusades, actually. And what's interesting is they were fixed in pitch, usually tuned like a fourth or a fifth apart, a common musical interval, but definitely not the flexible instruments we have today.
Right, okay. So they couldn't really play different notes within a piece then. When did they start to become more, well, versatile?
Well, the evolution towards tunable timpani, it was gradual, but really crucial. The 15th century saw the emergence of larger drums, still untunable though, mostly used in royal processions. Think Hungarian cavalry. And the way they were tensioned was pretty basic, literally nailing the drum head to the shell.
Nailing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But the real game changer, the big leap, came in the early 16th century. That's when they figured out how to replace those bindings with screws.
Screws.
Simple, right? But revolutionary. It meant you could actually adjust the tension on the drum head, and that meant you could tune the drum to different pitches. It just fundamentally changed its potential in music.
It's amazing how sometimes it's the simplest ideas.
Hmm.
So once they could be tuned, did they immediately just jump into orchestras?
Not straight away, no. But the 17th century was really the key period for that transition. Timpani started moving indoors, finding a place in court orchestras, opera ensembles, that sort of thing. And this also marked the development of more formal playing techniques, moving beyond just banging them in a procession.
Okay, makes sense.
Then the 18th and 19th centuries saw more refinements, like machine tuning came about around 1812. But one of the most significant mechanical leaps was the pedal mechanism in the 1870s. The Dresden timpani are famous for this. Suddenly, players could change pitch really fast, like during a performance. Huge possibilities for composers opened up.
Ah, the pedals. I've seen those.
Exactly. And then much later, mid-20th century, Remo introduced plastic heads. Much more durable, less affected by weather than the old animal skins.
Right, consistency. That must have been a big deal for players. It sounds like quite a journey of innovation. So by the time we get to the classical orchestra, as we kind of recognize it, what's the established role of the timpani?
Oh, by that point, they were absolutely indispensable, a core part of the percussion section. Popular Beethoven magazine points out they serve this vital dual purpose, providing a rhythmic foundation, yes, but also harmonic reinforcement.
Harmonic. How so?
Well, a standard modern set usually has 4 drums, different sizes, giving a decent range. Historically, though, they were often used in pairs, tuned to the tonic and dominant.
The main chords of the key, basically.
Exactly. Think of it as the home bass note and a key supporting note. It creates a really strong harmonic foundation. They were often used to support the brass section or, for dramatic accents. Think Baroque, classical eras Bach, Mozart used them, but maybe a bit sparingly compared to later.
Gotcha. But it sounds like the Romantic era was when composers really started to explore their potential more fully.
Oh, absolutely. Composers in the Romantic era, think Mahler, Berlioz, they were exploring much richer orchestral textures. And they often use multiple timpanists to get these really dense, powerful sounds. While the article does mention timpani can be used melodically sometimes, their main strength is really adding that depth and intensity.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about the sound of thunder in Haydn's The Creation. That's the timpani. Or the really powerful rhythmic drive in Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring. just pure energy driven by the timpani.
Okay, yeah, I could picture that. So we've tracked their evolution and their growing role. When did they actually become like a standard part of scored orchestral works? When did composers start writing them in consistently?
Well, Popular Beethoven magazine points to Claudio Monteverdi's opera L'Orfeo, that's from 1607, as a really early notable example. It specifically has music for trumpets and kettledrums together.
1607, wow.
Yeah. But the more, let's say, permanent integration into the standard lineup, that's generally credited to works from the mid-17th century, like Matthew Locke's Psyche or Jean-Baptiste Lully's Opera Thésée. These composers consistently use timpani to, boost moments of celebration or provide that powerful underpinning for the brass. That really cemented their place.
And then, of course, there's Bach. He always seemed to find interesting ways to use instruments. What was his contribution?
Bach definitely saw their expressive potential. The magazine specifically mentions his secular cantata, Tonet ihr Pauken, Erschley, trompetin, from 1729.
Which means...
Sound forth, you drums, ring out, you trumpets. The title kind of gives it away, right?
Yeah, that does.
It features this incredibly prominent, really demanding timpani part. It's almost like a solo sometimes. He actually later adapted some of that music for his Christmas oratorio. It really showed other composers what these drums could do, dynamically and expressively.
Which brings us neatly to Beethoven, the focus of Popular Beethoven magazine. How did he approach the timpani? How did he push things forward?
Beethoven. He truly revolutionized how composers thought about and used the timpani, a total game changer. He really moved beyond just using them for rhythm or harmonic backup. He started treating them as an independent, often really dramatic voice within the orchestra.
An independent voice.
Yeah. The article gives some fantastic examples. Think about his violin concerto. It famously opens with 4 solo timpani strokes. Just the timpani.
Just boom, 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 boom.
Pretty much an incredibly bold statement back then about the instrument's dramatic power. Then, look at his Symphony No. 7. He did something really unusual for the time. He tuned the pair of timpani a minor sixth apart, an A and an F, not the usual perfect fourth or fifth.
That's quite a dissonant interval for timpani back then, isn't it?
Exactly. Very unconventional.
Yeah.
The example from the Ninth Symphony the magazine mentions, that's maybe even more groundbreaking.
What did he do there?
Well, in the scherzo movement, the fast, energetic one, which is in D minor Beethoven, tunes the timpani to octave F naturals. And he uses them in this incredible call and response with the rest of the orchestra. It creates this really striking, almost startling effect. It just highlights his creative vision, using the sound and resonance in a new way.
Wow. Octaves on timpani.
Yeah. And these kinds of innovations by Beethoven, they were just hugely influential on composers who came after him. They saw what was possible.
Okay, so now we're finally circling back to the question that started this whole thing, that small car price tag. What actually goes into making these instruments, and why are they so expensive?
Right. Well, the cost really boils down to a mix of things. High-quality materials, the skilled craftsmanship involved, and the precision engineering needed for a pro-level instrument. As Popular Beethoven magazine details, the bolt, the big copper part, is traditionally made of copper.
Why copper?
It offers really superior acoustic properties, helps regulate temperature too, which can affect the sound. It just resonates beautifully. Now, less expensive models might use fiberglass or aluminum. They're more durable, sure, but they produce a slightly different tonal quality.
And the shape matters too, right?
Absolutely. The shape of the bowl itself, whether it's more hemispherical, like a perfect half sphere, or parabolic, a bit deeper that affects the tone. Hemispherical tends to be brighter, parabolic, darker.
Okay. And what about the drum head itself? You mentioned plastic earlier, but what was used before?
Historically, yeah, it was calf skin or goat skin. Those were the traditional materials. But modern timpani, more often than not, use synthetic materials like Peton film, a type of plastic.
For consistency.
Exactly. Much greater consistency in sound, and they're far less bothered by changes in humidity or temperature. Way more reliable for performing musicians. Then you have the really intricate construction. The head is stretched over a metal ring, the flesh hoop, then secured by another hoop, the counter hoop, with all these tension rods.
Or the pedal mechanism.
Or the sophisticated pedal mechanism, right, for that quick, accurate tuning across the range. And of course, you have the different sizes, from small piccolo timpani up to big 33-inch ones, each designed to cover about a perfect fifth in pitch range.
So when you factor in the copper, the precision mechanics, the skilled labor.
Exactly. It all adds up. Popular Beethoven magazine mentions that, a single student-level fiberglass timpani might be around $3,000, but a professional quality set of four copper timpani from a top maker like Yamaha, you could easily be looking at over $17,000.
$17,000.
And for the absolute top of the line instruments, we're talking exceptional craftsmanship, the finest materials, the best possible tone. You could be looking upwards of $30,000.
30,000. Okay, now the small car comparison makes a lot more sense.
It really is an investment in sonic excellence and, the instrument's ability to meet the incredible demands of professional performance night after night.
Wow. That really reframes my whole understanding. It's clearly so much more than just hitting a drum. So we've taken quite a journey here, from ancient religious ceremonies through military bands, the invention of tuning, Bach's solos, Beethoven's incredible innovations,
Yeah.
all the way to the intricate and, yes, costly creation of these foundational orchestral instruments.
We certainly have, and it really underscores how an instrument that might seem, to just sit in the back can possess such a rich history, play such a vital role in the music we love, and be the product of some truly dedicated and skilled craftsmanship.
It definitely makes you listen differently. So, thinking about all this, considering Beethoven's revolutionary use of the timpani and the sheer dedication to craftsmanship that results in their significant cost, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other seemingly background instruments in an orchestra might hold similarly fascinating stories and unexpected importance? Something for all of us to think about next time we listen.